Hey.
Hey, Glen.
You're not in Haiti, I
hope. Yeah, it's funny about that because I was talking to somebody else that they talked to from Texas.
Yeah.
And we were talking. He was talking about his past and how he's like just like finding out like what his DNA is and how we have to about the 13 people and then the next day right after that because we were coming up. He was saying to me like you should find out what your DNA is, and the next day what happens? I find out Haiti like this earthquakes and I don't know, like he was saying that it was like some type of message or something to me, like they're trying to warn me, don't go there. I don't know.
No.
I don't think
I don't think it's designed for any individual.
Oh.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police are there training the police. They want to improve their sophisticated corruption. Don't put your hand out on the street asking for a bribe. Do it by giving a ticket, and we'll pay you later on. That's the more sophisticated way of collecting bribes. I don't know if any of them were killed. Certainly, there's no reason to believe that they weren't, because they would all be living in the basic downtown core, I would imagine.
Now, I see it as like a sign, like some type of sign, because, like, America's going to be.
Well, you got one on both sides of the U.S. this week. Okay? There was a 7-point something on the off the coast of California, and you get the 7.3 off of the coast, the East Coast. Difference is there's an island there as opposed to no island in the West. It certainly could be just laying the groundwork.
It was funny too. I was looking at your post on your website, and I was using one of the pictures that you used. Yeah, I'm big. I'll be there. I'll be there right there in like 5 minutes. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I was using one of your pictures, and in one picture you have is the number 9 in the Desdemona typeface, and it says Anderson Cooper. And I go downstairs this morning, or just a few minutes ago, and I look on CNN because my parents are watching it, and this is Anderson Cooper. He's covering the story. I'm like, what?
Well, we certainly are focused in on the right message. But it's this is peanuts compared to what is going to happen if there isn't a change in the system. Like the police here have basically till I think it's between tomorrow and the end of the month to give a response on their investigation on toll gating that I've requested, and I don't expect them to do anything, but if they don't do anything, that, I'm told, will be strike 3 on them, and they'll be set up, and when the wall of Lake Superior collapses and water comes flowing down, I mean, you're dealing with millions and millions of people there, you know, all the way from Duluth, Minnesota, down to St. Lawrence Seaway. Toronto has, 3-4 million people. Chicago must have 10 million people or thereabouts. Detroit, Cleveland.
Yeah, I see that, what's it called, it was just 13 people. That's what I was going to say, it's 13 people.
13 people is what we need.
The 13, I really do, I don't know, I understand that 13 people really, like, who actually have, like, can see this, actually really can affect something. I think it would probably even be maybe a threat to the system.
Absolutely. The message that we're giving is that we must will our own will, not theirs. And the word theirs says it. The IRS.
Yeah.
So it's the choice we have to let them will their will or let us will our will. So they, at this point, have the critical mass of idiot brains. We can have the critical mass of savant brains. 7.7% each, 13 people, 100%. There you go.
I was also discussing this with guy. Like, I know it would be impossible for 13 people to actually be there on your farm all at once.
They don't have to be here all at once. They have to start here, and when the message comes out, they must basically begin to will their will at a certain time every day, so that the 13 people out of the 30 are willing their will in whatever place they happen to be, but at the same time as the other people, the other 12 in the 13.
Yeah, and because if people, I think, I don't know, if say we were all 13 on your farm, I think that would be like a kind of danger too.
Too many people, Matt, for here. Too many people at one time. 4 or 5 people is about the max that makes sense for the farm. Better 2 people than 1 person at a time, but better 1 person than no person. I think 2 or 3 people is just right. Up to 5 is acceptable. After 5, it becomes too difficult to manage. People don't get the time they need in the time they're here to absorb and ask their questions. They get kind of dragged on to other people's discussions, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, how many earthquakes do you see, like, on an average a year?
Well, I've been following earthquakes for a couple of years now. And at any time, the numbers vary in 24 hours from between 5 or 6 to up to about 23, 24 in a 24-hour period. So I guess the average would be somewhere around 1 every 2 hours. 12 a day would be a average. But that's not counting any induced earthquakes. These are just the earthquakes that happen. Have you been following any of the reports on Haiti this morning?
No, I actually, tell you the truth, I just woke up like half hour ago, so I didn't.
Well, I've been outside, so I have no idea what they're reporting yet. So.
They said it was 7.0 in the Richter scale. That's what I remember reading.
Last night.
Yeah, last night.
Early this morning, they were saying 7.3. I was listening to it at about 3:30 this morning while I was working.
And I was thinking, why would they do that? I was thinking, they don't want any more jars coming out of there. Something.
It's amazing how being part of an island, 2 in 1, the Dominican Republic, how Haiti always gets the worst.
Yeah, man, that's why.
And they've only got a little part of the island.
Yeah, it's because they're. I don't know. I look at it. They're old. They have like that old original DNA from the beginning, and they probably want to eradicate that.
Well, there's something for certain in Haiti for the government of Canada, the Queen of England, whatever, having appointed a Haitian woman who's basically a recent immigrant, fairly young. I mean, it didn't make any sense then, and it doesn't make any sense now. You don't have to be against anybody. You just say, what's the history of governor generals in Canada? The history is they were in their 60s to 70s. Why all of a sudden do we get a, 35, 40-year-old woman who basically has no roots? Speak up.
No.
She arrives from Haiti, and right away an old guy with money marries her.
It was all like set up.
Yeah.
The whole situation.
She becomes a producer at the national television network, which is called Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, between 2 C's. And from there, Governor General. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But somebody's got a program, and they're following the program. Hey, she was there to swear in Barack and Michelle right after their election. So they got to be Knights of the Garter or something like that. The Order of the Bath. Some British bullshit.
Yeah,
in any event, your mom called you, so go for lunch.
Oh, no, she called me for, she just wanted to tell me something. I didn't have to go anywhere. Because the heat, what happened?
You said you'd be there in 5 minutes.
Yeah, because I thought she wanted me to be somewhere, but she was like, no, just check the door. Because my heat, the heater doesn't work for some reason in my house. And he said that the guy who's going to fix it should be here and to answer the door. So I have to answer the door. If it happens in a few minutes, I'll go. But another thing I wanted to mention, the Basque, right? Do you think they were involved in the founding of Haiti?
Well,
And their DNA was passed through the slaves by raping, or
the Basque are part of the media. They go back and are the Kurds. Before they were Kurds, they were Medi, in a country called Media. Before they were Medi, they were Kashki, and that brings them back to Kashmir in India. So they're basically part of the continuing management team. The Basque job is basically to introduce fashion, modern trends for young people, like creating all of the things young people do.
That's interesting, because Basque, that means they would be in New York then. Cause there's a lot of that going on in New York. New York's a big trendsetter with things.
Well, they set the trends. They're usually picked up by England and then end up in New York. England starts it, but they don't have the wherewithal to make it happen. So it has to be picked up afterwards by a place like New York. You know, the Police, that musical gang, is a good example of a change in the direction, trendsetters, the way people who were involved in that movement, band, following that band, how they dress, all of that stuff.
So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm thinking in my mind. I was thinking last night, like, pretty amazing how this computer, right, could just from underground in a cave could just mess with reality and just change it up. Just from doing whatever it does.
Living in the most important time. And how we deal with that is important. Can't bury our heads in the sand. We can stand back and watch things happen without doing anything.
No, I don't want to do that. That's like torture, though.
Or we can do what we're doing, trying whatever seems reasonable, intuitively, and mentally, to do what can be done to stop cataclysmic events from happening. But we're not in charge here. We are able to get our request listened to and pondered upon, but we're not in charge. People who have caused the damage insist on pursuing the path they're on. Creation will say, well, maybe after this time we'll hold back on phase 2. Seems to be a momentum for phase 1 to occur, both in the delay that we are experiencing in getting the 13 people here, and in the resource side that we need make that happen. It may be a part of the plan to prevent us from being disappointed. Gather and the decisions made anyways to let phase one go through. Try to cleanse a specific segment of the population. What it appears to be is they're going for the hedgehogs first. That is related to the pig. Seems to me, although it was after my time, a lot of people referred to policemen as pigs.
Yeah, they still do. So they call them, another term they use, they call them 5-0. I always wonder why would they call policemen 5-0 or 50 or...
Dominant force is 5.
Oh, that the 5-star, right?
Yeah. So, like Lake Superior is the 5th lake. It is the Superior Lake, the greater lake. All the Great Lakes. Dominant and 5 come together. Usually that's linked to a wharf and water, ship coming in. Now, on the wharf, there are these metal structures on which ropes are tied when a ship comes in. You look at the design of the 5 in the Desdemona typeface, it's got that shape. Like a cherry with a crossbar on top. So the round part basically attaches to the wharf, and then when a ship comes in, they throw their rope, and it gets circled around the T part that sticks up. At the 2 5s put together in Desdemona, that's what it does.
Yeah, to me, when it's 2 5s, it looks like, I think it's the omega part, or like a omega. Well, it looks like when you take 2 5s and you reverse them and put them their backs to each other, it looks like the omega and the alpha omega symbols.
Well, I look at it and it seems to me to look like a cherry.
Yeah, it can be that. So.
With a crossbar. That basically is a sign of a new beginning, a virgin birth. Coming in to tie up at the wharf. So both of those things are suggestive of a new slave. Virgin birth being the method of procreation.
Yeah, why do they use that term, the cherry, like with the African, you call them Bing cherries, what do they call them?
Yeah, well, in Canada, we sell, I used to buy them, black cherries. And the official name was Bing.
Now, why is it that when people have an ice cream, you put a cherry on top?
Obviously,
of the cone.
They have a symbolic
reason
for doing that. Normally do it on a Sunday, ice cream Sunday.
It's like a little mountain or something, and they just put...
Hill, or mound, is created by a line thrust pushing up from below.
Yeah, you said that's what like the hills and like Scotland and stuff were created from whatever they were doing.
Of Rome. Parliament Hill, Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
They design cities based upon the hills so that the important things can be put in the right place. I guess the concept must be if you already have a hill, that's safe. Like lightning, they're hoping it doesn't hit twice in the same place. That is all based upon haphazardness, whereas I'm not talking about anything haphazard. I'm talking about somebody's planning it.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to push the button and the jack will push up and stones will break.
These people who are pushing the buttons, what do you think that the mind state? Like, this is not a person who's like in a mind state like you.
They obviously are programmed. They're robots. Do what they're told.
That's a lot of pressure.
Same thing happens one-on-one at a capital punishment. Somebody has to kind of pull the lever or push a button that starts chemistry flowing or gas.
From their end, the person who's pushing the button, they probably don't know the full effect of what it's going to do. They just probably are told, like, it's going to do this.
Yeah. And the entire belief structure that they're working with is that every time you knock off a population and build it up again, you've gone forward. So they're looking at this as improving the species.
Cool.
In the same way as you have dog shows and cat shows, these people have over time taken different categories of animals and merged them together, and satisfied with some, dissatisfied with others, they basically discontinue the ones they don't want and reinforce the category's direction that they want. Then you end up with dogs that act like people. And right now, we're reversing the process. We want people to act like dogs.
Yeah.
Go fetch. Bag man, bag lady, go fetch.
In the past, I used to think that no other species would kill off its own species like that, but then I remember I looked at insects and like bees, and they do that.
Yeah.
I guess that's like the ugly side of nature.
You served your purpose.
Yeah.
That's the drone populates with the queen. You served your purpose, now drop dead. And theirs is a real drop, because they're up and flying around.
Yeah. But it's just like, I guess it all depends on the purpose of the species, but get the purpose of this species. The real purpose, I feel, the creation's purpose is to learn, experience, bring it back, but this purpose is just self-serving.
Is accumulating for the purpose of developing
structure,
control.
Yeah. And this is like, see, that's why I feel like creation will, it's probably just, if it's left to the creation, like, it'll probably destroy everything because if you take away the species' purpose, to learn and use it to serve your own purpose, and you make them toll booth operators, and you're just like you're asking for it.
Try to imagine being alone today in front of a judge we'll call creation, and try to make a case for allowing the species called humans to continue. When everything you see is the division into camps for the purpose of enhancing war, pestilence, famine, and disease to the benefit of the few as opposed to the whole. Creation, set out a process, and no one had to work in order to survive under the rules of creation. They reached up to a tree and pulled down a fruit and ate, or picked up a vegetable off the garden and in the jungle or whatever, and they didn't have to work to make it happen. The system wants slaves, and slaves have to work. And the best slave is the one who thinks he's free. And of course they are free, but not to themselves. They're masters.
Well, the Neanderthals, they always needed help because they're too weak, right?
Well, they didn't always need help. Some event brought that about. At one time, they were physically able, but there was an event, and I'm still working on trying to pull that out, linked to cryogenics, freezing on the spot, that brought about this division within their ranks. There are a whole group of people went into the equivalent of hibernation.
Oh yeah, the cryogenic.
Frozen. While they were working on one particular topic, and when they were basically thawed.
Yeah, they became what they are, like that.
And I don't know if that period was as a whole person. They were kind of a coma, or were they manufactured from their coprolite?
No, so these Neanderthals, are they like that? How they have to work hard at something and just finish the task perfectly, because that's what it suggests, how they're all geniuses on one topic, so they must just totally just be really anal about one thing and just has to be perfect.
Well,
do we get that from them?
You saw the movie about Nash, the physicist who worked on his problem. You see Albert Einstein. They are basically working on a single solution to the problem they have in their head. Problem is that they believe that they, as an individual person, can work it out. And that's not how it happens. You have to share the task, because we're not perfect enough to come out with a real answer.
I was thinking about that. Those, the Neanderthals, how they learned. They didn't learn, or people in general, and before the Ice Age, they weren't learning by reading books, right?
No.
Because there was no. So that's fairly new, right?
But they obviously developed a computer.
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of years
How do they keep records, though?
So by putting everything into the computer, the computer produces the book, what they call a manuscript.
But before the computer, how did they keep records? Was it because I know it was a matriarch?
That's why I believe that the computer is so old that the amount of information they first downloaded into computers was nothing compared to what is in the computers today. And of course, at one stage of the game, computers begin to learn from the data that's been put in and don't need to depend on people to come up with the answer, because they can cross-reference many files, come up with a lot of answers themselves. The one time that we know for certain that they assisted clan mothers was at about 80,000 BC when men appeared, because without their assistance there would be no men. And therefore it has to be that at that time, 80,000 BC, they already had computers, because you can't do genetic engineering in your head. There are too many things to consider. Just can't be done by a person in his own head. Have to be following basic information that has been learned over many, many years.
So that genetic engineering, from what I understand, they didn't come out with the computer when they started genetic engineering, because from reading your work, it says that they came with the computer like a little while after they were kicked out, after our clan society.
No. They came before that, because they were kicked out in 58,800 BC. But by then, they already made men out of hermaphrodites.
So you think they needed a computer to do that?
They needed a computer to do that.
Oh. News to me. You know what I suggest for you, Glenn? I don't know if you already have, if it's hard for you. You should have, talk to somebody who's as old as you. And I'm saying, DNA-wise. And you could almost...
I can't find one. I've been looking for one. I would know it if I heard the person talk to me. But I can't find one. That's why I continued putting stuff on the net to kind of expand the area. Now, there is one possibility of a guy who's contacted me from Slovenia. I look at his stuff, and his first name, I know it must sound like Is-Talk. And I consider myself Talk. Not T-A-L-K, but T-O-C.
Oh.
Like in tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. So, and his, I think, is T-O-K or something like that. He basically wrote to me recently and was suggesting that I may have the answers to the things he's been looking for. And that he's not there yet, but he wants to continue conversations, and he tried to order some Kealey papers, but apparently in Slovenia they don't have an account with Canada's post office, so he has to go to Austria or Italy's post office to send out a letter to Canada or something. Said he's going to do that shortly, but he seems to have an age in his 60s or thereabouts, so he might have, I think, my information is I was the first batch of Cro-Magnon, and I was, in fact, made from a clan mother's egg. Therefore, I retained some information from the time I was clan mother as a Cro-Magnon, and that's why, as people say, stubborn, I focused.
So, you don't have any memories of servicing a computer underground?
I don't have any memory of anything technical, but that wasn't my role. I mean, my role in any life is always the same.
Observe, analyze, conclude.
Yeah. Stick yourself in the middle of the problem, look around, observe how people got into the mess they're in, analyze it, get to the core of the matter, and make your conclusions and send in a report. And at the end, we'll pick up your DNA and plug it back into the system, and you'll be downloaded into the program, and then take a break. And the next time we need you, we'll call on you.
Now these with the just jot that in my mind. With wow, damn, I hate it when that keeps happening to me, Glenn. Maybe I'm going crazy or something.
Memory blanks are called Mercury moments. And Mercury is the planet that causes that problem. Mercury. The mother in the house and the priest in the parish. Together, they're a team.
Maybe it's my Western training. Maybe it's the instant gratification or something. Maybe it's that, like, that I'm expecting to get, like, as you call it, like the flowing, more of it at an early age or something. Maybe that's what it is. Because I get that, but not, like, pouring out, like, the information. Sometimes it pours out, but not, like, constantly like that.
It's something that I was able to practice in my years as a salesman. Because as a salesman, you learn that getting the comeback to the person's objection is important, that it comes back when you need it, rather than coming back to you when you're at home at night or at another customer's place. So I don't know, maybe the experience of being in that position for a long enough period kind of hones that skill. time you change topics, there's another learning process that needs to go on. You may have the comebacks you want, but the topic may not be comebacks you need.
Because for a while I kept just reading through the encyclopedia and like going on this whole search. I was just doing like this whole weird research I was doing, and it was working. I was getting all types of premonitions, but I had to stop because I wanted to change up a little bit and do something else. Maybe learn a different way, and because I noticed that like if I keep reading in the book, I'll pass over things after a while. Like I need to take a break and come back to it.
And it's not good in any task to concentrate on just one task.
Yeah, that's because I'm not an idiot savant. I'm.
Well, I have arguments with people on the farm here that I don't want them to turn into slaves. So, don't go out in the morning to fix fence posts and be fixing fence posts, for example, all day long. Give it an hour. And after an hour, do something else. Sit down, relax, go to bed, read, but try to divide your time in units of an hour or thereabouts.
When I was talking to the guy on the phone, he said that's like the idiot savant. That's the Neanderthal part. That's in people because they just gotta get that job accomplished. They have to.
Yeah. There's more than one job to do in a day.
Yeah.
It doesn't need anybody who's basically going to do just one thing.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I almost the thing I forgot was what do you think the Neanderthals do you think they thought up? Like they didn't worry about like people like you, for example, who were working for them, would just turn on them, start thinking for themselves?
Well, I think what they would do is
kill them off.
Look at the end product of what they began. The bigger picture, they could analyze basically from computer information. Where were they when they began? Where are they now? And where do they expect to go? Would be something of interest to them. So how they retrieve that data, whether it's by telepathy or by reading, don't know for certain. I didn't hang around with that crowd.
Yeah.
They used me to send me out.
You're just like a scout.
Yeah. So
and you know what?
Details is
wow.
Is basically your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, you know what? That's what you did, man. When you traveling around Canada, you're just a scout, just following your DNA.
I did basically the same job as Lewis and Clark did when Sacagawea and traveled to Oregon.
That's something I came across too. When you come across these certain tribes, Indian tribes, I found interesting. They probably all had their own program too. Right?
Well, the name Sioux comes from oui in French.
Oh, yeah.
And that's Louis in France. So, I mean, you could look at any of them, any tribe of North American Indian, they're not first born here. They are the first immigrants here.
Who was living here, you think, before that?
Nobody.
Nobody? Wow.
No, it was too cold. You had to wait. You had to wait for conditions to kind of sort themselves out. This was basically the Arctic, right past the Great Lakes.
The population of humanity was of I don't even know if I should call it humanity or people on the planet. It wasn't even that big as it is now. It was.
No. And any corpse, frozen, fossilized corpse you find suggests that the plates on the planet shifted places over the millions of years they've been around. I mean, there's no doubt that things that were at one time near the equator can now be discovered in the Arctic, and things that were at the bottom of the sea can be found on top of mountains. Now, all of that occurs as earthquakes and the breakup of the plates of the earth, the movement. So just because conditions are one thing today,
doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever.
Yeah, people expect it to be that way tomorrow. The evidence is it's never been. Why should it start now?
Yeah, with the population, like, boom. I think. Do you think that was like just encouraged by Neanderthal?
It was the genetic engineering and the concept of manufactured babies to be introduced into monarchies as arranged marriages, so that each baby going out would bring with it recessive genes that would have an impact on the people it populated with, and that would be a process of bringing 200 and some people into the world over a 100-year period. And to do that all day long through the processes they've been doing all along, Vestal virgins.
The Catholic Church.
Days,
The Catholic Church actually promoted.
Yeah, that's what religion is about. They do it in Buddhism, they do it in Hinduism. Their Latter-day Saints are nothing new. They're just following a process, and I suggest that Latter-day Saints, Mormons, have their roots in Jainism in India. They are basically the people who have the same approach.
That's supposed to be an American-made organization, right? Did they come from?
Well, it's an American-made organization based on reading a manuscript provided to them from India. That the Book of Mormon wasn't a mental process of somebody sitting down and a Mormon writing it out. It was material handed to them, as it always is, and that's the reason we exist in the northern continent, the northern hemisphere. Is there's a book that needed to be written, and nobody had any data, because you don't get data living on Earth or underground about space travel.
Oh, so whenever there was a new group of people on a supposedly undiscovered land, they had to have a manual for that.
You hand them a manual
that says "Adore me."
That's for the masses.
Yeah.
And then you fund a certain group of people to do a certain type of research, or in their case, search. You can't do research if you've never done the search.
Mm-hmm.
So you can bet your bottom dollar that NASA and what they call them in California, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, are not your average corporation. These are people who have been assigned the principal task of Caucasians. Everybody else is kind of a support structure for these people. People who do space exploration are the front line people.
Yeah, 'cause that was the main task of the whole race, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else, I mean, it's fallout stuff. You can be a plumber in their house. You can be a retailer that supplies their family. But they are the people who are, in fact, doing the task of this generation.
Now, when their manuals, like the Bibles and stuff, when they made other versions of Bibles, were these little updates?
Yeah, they're just basically different approaches to the same problem. Some you have to allow a little more freedom, and others you have to be a little more uptight. And, I suggest that Judaism is based upon procreation, making babies, spreading them out, whereas Islam is the opposite end, making slaves, putting them in bags. Christianity in the middle is basically Buddhism.
Oh, the love?
Yeah, it's the love religion. You know, don't do me any harm because I'm your boss. As long as they can keep people believing that pacifism is the way, they're not going to get knocked on their ass like they should get knocked on their ass occasionally. And that has allowed the system to be what it is. The policemen and the soldiers get guns, and we are told to turn the other cheek. You know? Problem is to figure out, are they talking about the ones on your face or the ones on your buns? You can get a kick in the ass.
But the ones who get the kick in the ass, those are the ostriches. Like, usually get the... me, I'll probably just get a punch in the face because I'm not gonna...
If you look at the chessboard, you see how it functions.
Yeah, I do see that. Yeah,
the soldier, the guy in charge of soldiers...
They just go. They move first to the ones that die. The knights can move differently. They move sort of differently. The queen's the most powerful, and you have the bishop who moves his own way. And those are religions, churches, and
you put your policemen out in front.
Yeah.
Because they're expendable.
What's that piece that looks like a castle?
A rook.
A rook. You know what's interesting too? I looked at it, and it's like a rook is actually a type of crow. And you said the rooks begat crooks, and those were the.
Well, the concept of the castle is suggestive of corporations and government, where you have a lot of bureaucrats. They don't think as individuals, but they put out a message as a group. Just the word rook, the fact that it has two O's in it, makes me always come back to the word loo. Their plan is the big flushing, the big toilet.
So how's that linked to like rookie and stuff?
Well, R is for right turn, and it can be converted to left turn.
Or down.
So an R can be an L. Yeah. Added to the two O's, which basically mean change. The two parts of the number 8 started off as round, and the square stone cutters basically chipping away at the circle and making them into squares, so that when the symbol of the capital letter E is mirrored on itself, it makes 2 squares instead of 2 circles. The R becoming an L, it's basically changing the word from rook to look. Back end is Q-U-E, which is K. K Sarah Sarah.
K Sarah.
K, basically like qua, E and A are interchangeable, are talking about agents. Quebec, KBC, Quebec and British Columbia. They're agents.
In Quebec, is actually, you can link that word cab. Cab. It was,
Q-U-E, Q-U-A are basically the same thing as professional.
That's actually a word in Spanish from C-U-E. I think it's, ¿qué? What? Yeah. Q. Which is your Q now. When they say this is your Q.
And in French, Q is ass.
I guess that game, right? In French. And in France, I don't know if it wasn't just French, but it was. They call it fencing. I guess that was symbolic of the insemination. Of the when they.
The minute you start with FE, you're talking about iron. When you say fencing, you also mean
defense,
limiting the space the person is allowed to play in. Fenced up. In fencing, you're basically got a carpet you're working on back and forth, and you have to stay within that area. And it's the role of we men. They are put in a house, and their job is basically to spy on that house and bring the information back.
Oh, here's a thought. This is what I got too. If you know how you say you want people to go and up there to the farm, and I was thinking how you said you want. You didn't say you want, but the Valkyries, they're supposed to get the DNA of the soldiers. How about the people who go up there? Like, you think the people who go up there on your farm, you think that those people would be the soldiers that they get the DNA from?
No, they're not enough people. The soldiers.
You need hordes of armies.
Have to be armies. We're only going to be a group of 13. That's certainly not a number that can defend any in a war.
It could defend.
Not physically.
No.
The same thing as the original Knights Templars. They were sent to the Middle East on the pretext that they were going to protect the pilgrims.
Yeah, that was all.
They were just going to school.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with us. We're going to school. We're learning a new process. How do you win a war without fighting? Well, if what you're promoting is not self-serving, then access to creation is the way you gain power. So 13 people willing their own will as a unit get access to creation. It's not the 13 people who are going to win the war or change the world. They're only providing the evidence that creation needs to
bringing
that there's a reason for saving this place.
We're hanging. We have access to the bat signal.
Yeah. Yeah. Good analogy. We're in the Catmobile and at the bat signal. You can handle it from both ends.
Yeah.
In any event.
Yeah. Gotta do some work.
Yeah.
All right, Glenn.
Bye for now.
Okay, bye.